But yeah, hello, Mary, and welcome to Campfire.
Oh, nice to meet you.
I'm Demet. I'm one of the Campfire founders. I'm also mainly the person behind all the emails,
Yeah.
um, which is why I am slightly not used to doing this, but we'll do it. But yeah, it's really nice to have you here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Um, Before we go into my wonderfully prepared questions,
Mhm.
would you like to tell me or tell our viewers who you are and a brief synopsis of your wonderful book, Strange Nature?
So my name is Mary Watson, and I'm a writer, originally from South Africa, but now living in Ireland, in Galway on the West Coast. And Strange Nature is my fourth YA book, and it is about a young girl called Jasmine, 17-year-old, no, sorry, she's 18, 18-year-old girl called Jasmine, who bumps into a young woman, Neve, one afternoon. And Neve is clearly distraught. And the next day, Jasmine finds out that Neve is dead. So while everybody thinks that Neve's committed suicide, Jasmine knows that it's murder. So she ingratiates herself into a group of students and enlists their help as they probe Neve's death, and particularly her relationship with the very charming Professor Theo Merrick. But the problem is that by digging into this, Jasmine inadvertently unearths some of her own demons. And the
That
book
sounds,
is called Strange Nature.
yes, that sounds very intriguing. That sounds like it will be a wild ride to read through.
Well,
Um,
I had fun writing it, so.
Good, good. And I think that that is a really good point to start. So, when you wrote it, did you have any particular inspiration? Is there anything that started you off on this book journey? Anything specific inspiration?
Well, this one I'm actually blaming on my husband because he's a scientist and we had, as our kitchen chats, chatting in the kitchen, apparently we also got really stuck in the details of the book on a trip to Chicago one year. We were out in a bar and just kind of hashing out ideas. And we got talking about biohacking, and how I think that's going to be something that becomes more and more prominent in the future, where people start modifying their bodies. And it's already happening, like when people are putting in fillers and whatever, but to do it much more strategically, like to have bionic arms or whatever. And also anti-aging, and not just anti-aging, but the extension of longevity itself. I'm particularly fascinated by this idea because there is very much that sense of people wanting to maintain youth, particularly within looks. I mean, we've heard about this for a long time, but imagine it is possible, and I think people are very much obsessed and investigating this to actually keep the body younger, to keep young, youthful at a cellular level, to not have organs age. And there was a newspaper article today about Xi and Putin talking about immortality and organ transplants. And I think we'd be surprised the extent to which this is actually already happening in the world, that people are injecting blood or God knows what, billionaires, politicians, who knows, doing these things, taking these sort of extreme steps in order to maintain their longevity, extend their longevity.
It's that is very sci-fi and it's very
It,
fascinating, but also
it
slightly terrifying.
is very sci-fi, but that's the thing, is that I didn't want to write a sci-fi book. So
Yeah,
it was then about how to take all this stuff,
yeah,
which I'm absolutely fascinated by, and then put in the background and not make that the focus of the book, and
yeah.
make a book about something else. And I think that anybody familiar with my YA books particularly knows that it's often about relationships, it's about family, it's about self-discovery, and that then becomes the foreground and the science
Yeah.
becomes the background.
I mean, that sounds really, really interesting. I read a lot of sci-fi, but like seeing these sci-fi elements in a different context, almost
Mhm.
for me at least, makes them more terrifying because they make them more real. Because in a sci-fi, I'm like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
you do that, that's fine. But like, what do you mean? It looks like today, and everything is still happening.
Mhm.
That's makes me very unhappy somehow. I'm very
Well,
intrigued at the same time.
I did a lot of research into it while I was writing the book, and there is definitely this stuff happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
It's
to
not
be
the
fair,
future is there.
yes. And to be fair, there's aspects of it that are very fascinating, very encouraging. Like speaking as someone who's like chronically ill, like that could be really enticing and really fun. But then also, everything has a good and a bad side. So I
I mean,
guess it's
and they have done it with I think rats or mice. I'm not sure. And where they've taken the blood from a young mouse and put it into like an older mouse and extended the older one, I think it's rats, lifespan. So this has happened. It's just not been replicated in humans just yet. I think it's a bit more complicated to do it in people.
cool. Well, very, very
So
fun.
that was the springboard.
Um,
That was the
yeah,
inspiration to answer the question.
that's very fun. You then blend all of these almost like sci-fi supernatural elements together with the myth and the realism, which um, makes it a very enticing and very, like, for me at least, for a world that sounds very, like, it draws you very much in. How did you get to that fusion? Like, what did you make it a thriller and blend all of these elements together?
Good question. So I think after writing Blood to Poison, I knew that I wanted to take a break from fantasy. That I didn't want the next book to be a fantasy book. I needed to sit that out for a bit. And I told you the sort of science inspiration, but then it's I think that it's what I bring to it, and that is the whole mythology thing. I think almost every story of mine either ends up having ruined buildings or a bit of mythology in it, and I can never seem to escape that. It's just how my brain works, and so it became a really kind of interesting combination of marrying that kind of scientific thrust with the mythological thrust, and that kind of made me think a lot of like you know historic Prague, where the alchemists were trying to discover the philosopher's stone, and that
Yeah.
kind of idea where magic and science were kind of the same thing or very much similar. And then that also fed into the idea of immortality, because the philosopher's stone could transmute base metals to gold, but at the same time it also is to find the elixir of youth. So there were nice kind of resonances. It kind of all just came together, really.
It sounds like it came together really well. So good. Congratulations. That sounds like it's a really, um, really, really good story, and like the fusion worked really well. Um, Talking about your characters, I think that would be a really interesting thing. You build very over, like looking at your old books and like your new book, you very much work with what everyone always calls like strong female characters. Your main character is a very strong and thought out character. She has some trauma and she's very watchful and curious, but she's a very rounded up person. How did you get to her? How did she came on the made it onto the page?
Um, so I think I always kind of start out thinking, what is what does somebody want? What does the character want? What does each character want? And I kind of sketch that through the whole book. So for me, it took me a while to find out what it is that she wants, and it was very much that sense of her wanting to belong, to find her place in the world, and that sense that she had a place in the world when she was with her grandfather, and then that was kind of rudely taken away from her, and then she kind of thought she had a place in the world with her school friends, but then lost that too, and then thinks that she finds her place in the world with this new bunch of friends, but let's see how that plays out. So that was her driving motivation, was to find her place in the world. And I think it becomes a journey of self-discovery, because she's very much a sidelines observing type of person. And as she goes through the book, she moves from becoming a kind of silent observer to an active participant. And that's particularly her journey of discovery. And it was really kind of good to plot that, to start her as the watcher, but then to have her take agency as the book goes on.
Yeah. There's a lot of friendships in the stories, but also multiple suspects and shifting allegiances. How did you deal with the perspective, like making the reader trust you, but then also potentially breaking the trust?
Well, I like that. I mean, that's the fun part, isn't it? It's the misdirection. It's kind of saying, like, we're going on this path over here, and this is how it all works, and then kind of saying, oh, actually, we're veering off to another path. And that for me is an immense amount of fun. Is that making people believe one thing and then letting it be something else later on. So I really particularly enjoy that. Um, I don't think that it destroys Tussle. I think that that's kind of the bargain. I think when people are reading murder mysteries or thrillers or whatever, they know that they're going to be twists, and that in some ways then becomes the pact, the contract that we make is that, yeah, I'm going to deceive you at some point, but I mean it well.
We we recently here at Campfire had we pre-recorded one of our panels for the festival at the end of September, on the 27th, in case anyone here listens wants to join on. And that is a murder mystery panel. And one of the big things our other thriller authors have talked about is how hard it is sometimes to find the line of when to say which information and what people should know at what stage. How do you find that? Are you a plotter? Like, do you know the whole story so you can then go in and decide things, or do you write and hope for the best? What do you do?
Oh, I definitely plan. I plan, but I have what I call a living outline. So I plan, but I know that it's going to change because I'm going to discover more paths, more doors, more routes as I go through it. And when I find those, I will change the outline and change the story to suit what I've discovered. But for me, the main thing is that I will always start when I very first start with a blank page for a new book. I always start without a plan. At that point, I just kind of write. But I know that I'm likely to throw that away, so I call that the false beginning. So I just
Yeah.
kind of write for a while, write a few chapters to see what the story is, to find out who the characters are, and that's what I can. And once I've gone a little way with this, I can write my first outline.
Is there anything of that false beginning that we can still find in the final book now, or did everything of that just go away?
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything. I mean, Jasmine is there. Jasmine the Observer. I think that what I got from that very first version, first false beginning, was that she's an observer,
Yeah.
and so that kind of came through. But no, it very rarely makes the final draft.
That's fair. I find it very interesting. Like sometimes you talk to people and they're like, "Oh, there's this one sentence I just could never like. I just kept it because I wanted to." And then some people they write the full like zero drafts and they just go in the bin, and I'm like, "How?
I've
How?"
heard that. I can't. I have a huge. I actually inadvertently did that with my most recent book, and it was a very interesting experience. But
Yeah.
it's not something I'd particularly like to do again.
Um, because you don't like so your false beginnings are really just a beginning. So can
Yeah,
we like how can we imagine them? Is that like novella, first few chapters?
it might be 5,000 to 7,000 words.
That's
Yeah.
decent. That's decent. That still hurts to throw
I
away,
joke
but
with
yeah,
my last. I mean, sometimes it's 50,000.
that's fair. One of our watchers has just suggested that you should release the false beginning as a like novella or like a pre-order bonus or
Interesting
something.
idea.
I'm
Very
not entirely.
interesting idea.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, yeah. I lost my thread. What did I wanted to talk about? I wanted to talk to you about so we learned your planner. You do your false beginning, but you do plan and you have your living outline. What else is like what quirk other things do you do about your writing? Do you have like a very structured day? Do you have any quirky writing habits? Is what I like to ask about. Like any snacks, playlists.
And well, I can't I can't listen to music with words while I'm thinking. So I
Yeah.
will play like the Witcher soundtrack or the Last Kingdom soundtrack in the next room. So that's kind of like big dramatic music going on in the next room, but
So
not
not even so not even with you, somewhere away. So it's like
yeah,
background noise.
background noise. Yeah.
Hmm,
Like I
fair.
can't, I need my break. I can't work in coffee shops if I'm drafting or writing, or even revising. I need, and I have a song, a trigger song. So each book will have like a song that I played a lot while I was writing that book, and I can't for the life of me remember what the song of this one was. So, for example, God, like what was this book song? So each book will, like for the Wren Hunt, it was the Kiss from a Rose by Seal, and I'd play that
Yeah.
again and again. So then when it came, so then you kind of put it away for a few months, and then you get the edits, and then I'd start playing that song again, which kind of
Yeah.
just brings the whole world back to me and makes it alive. For Blood to Poison, it was the Demons by Imagine Dragons, but the acoustic version, and it was Another Love by Tom
Yeah.
Odell. Yeah. Oh no, God,
That's a,
and also sometimes they too. It was I Want to Be Your Slave by Maniskin.
those are really good songs. That sounds really
Yes,
fun.
so I would listen to particularly I Want to Be Your Slave a lot for this book.
It sounds so weird when man just like I know this from publishing, when you use titles within a sentence, they make the sentence sound really weird when you don't know what people are talking about.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
really like listening to I Want to Be a Slave. It's,
but it sounds very strange.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
um but yeah, so does that then, that this trigger song, does that help you when you switching between projects?
exactly.
So it
So
gets you back into the groove.
exactly.
That's really
So
interesting.
I'll put it aside and I might start drafting something else, and then the edits come back in, and then I start listening to that trigger song again, and there we go. And now, like, even like I'll listen to if I'm driving and that song comes on, it's like, oh my God, I've got to go back to those characters. So,
Yeah. I have very similar things because I had revision soundtracks at uni, and even now when I hear them, I get like slight PTSD and being like, there's an exam coming. um, which is not good. But yeah. We have like 5 minutes left. What I really would like to know, and I don't know how much that actually influences. So we have a panel series that we keep on bringing up, which we call New Horizons. And so every time Campfire happens, we have a specific country focus that we try to not, something that isn't the UK or the US, and we talk to authors from that background. A few years ago, we had a New Horizons South Africa because one of our founding members is South African, and so she really wanted to champion South African authors, and talk about their influences and how that affects their writing, but also some of them were living in South Africa, so they talked about how the publishing world is entirely different there versus the UK or the US. How does your background and your heritage influence your writing? Does that go in, like, flow into you? I keep on using my hands even though no one can see them.
oh, as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
big time. Um, I always kind of joke that am I forever going to write stories that feature people who've moved to Ireland, brown skin protagonists who've moved to Ireland? And I think the answer is, I've actually kind of, because I used to say this, well, I can't, but I think the answer is actually yes, because that's kind of where it fits in. So, like, there is always that sense of coming from somewhere else, and particularly coming from South Africa, and my history there, and cultural elements and all of that. So definitely, like, I'm a very, very, very proudly South African, and it absolutely baked into me deeply.
Yeah, I mean, same, to be fair. Like, I think the being an like someone who migrated to another country is like such an experience that will stay with you forever because it's just so much a part of you, no
And
matter
there's
where
so
you are,
much
no matter where you come from. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
it's so
really,
funny because, like, it feels weird setting books in South Africa like I did with Blood to Poison, because I haven't lived there for the last 17 years, 16, 17 years. So the country's obviously changed in ways that I don't understand. But at the same time, I'm not like other Irish people because I didn't grow up here. I don't know it the way people who have lived here all their lives do know it. So there's always that sense of being between two worlds, between two places. And I've just kind of resigned myself to the fact that probably all my protagonists forevermore will have that kind of dual identity that I do.
honestly, I love that. It's one of the things that I desperately look for because it reflects how I grew up and my life story, and so I like looking for this experience. But I also think it's such a universal experience that
Mm.
I want other people to know about, and I
Exactly.
want people to understand and feel into. So I'm very happy about that. That's,
Good, good.
yeah.
Do it for
Keep on
us.
writing. Yes. Um, Before we finish, I think the two important questions always at the end are: what are you currently writing on? What's happening next? What can we look forward to?
Okay, so I am just finishing up my book that's coming out next year, which is about it's a thriller about a workplace romance gone bad, and I'm told that's the definition of a workplace romance. So that will be out next year.
That sounds really fun. Will that be YA or
That's
adult
another
then?
adult one.
Ooh. And then obviously the last question from my side: what other books can you recommend? What are you reading right now? Anything you love that anything we should be reading?
Okay, so a recent book that I've just actually finished is We Are All Guilty Here by Karen Slaughter, which I absolutely loved. It's probably one of my books for the year, so highly recommend that.
That sounds. I
Yeah,
mean, Karen Slaughter is a
amazing.
classic at this point.
Mm,
Yes.
mm.
No.
And this,
That
I
sounds
think
really cool.
this is the best. It's just an absolutely wonderful book.
That is a big label to put on. Yes.
Well, I think it's her best. Yeah.
Yes. No. But yeah, that sounds really fun. Well, thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Um, if you haven't yet, for you and for everyone watching, check out Campfire. We do these they are almost scheduled weekly until the festival happens because we're trying to build up some program before and after the weekend to showcase some authors that couldn't be included for one reason or another on the weekend. And we are very soon going to start our Campfire Cup, where you can be sorted into one of three teams and you can earn points. And the thing that I really found funny is because you have a book that's called The Red Hunt. Our three teams are named after animals. We have Trout, which is my team, Beaver, and we have Team Wren. So join. In
Yeah.
this case, even though it's not my team, join Team Wren.
Okay, now
Clearly, it is meant to be.
sorry,
um,
no option, no other option.
Absolutely not. But yes, join the teams, earn some points. It's really fun. We're trying to make it fun and free for everyone. So
Definitely.
join us. And but yeah, it was really lovely talking to you, and
Lovely talking
hopefully
to you too.
see you soon.
Yeah, definitely. Bye.
Bye.